This is coming from Pierre, who's calling from Canada. And Pierre actually emailed me earlier this week about what he wanted to call in about, and I'm excited to talk to Pierre. So Pierre, welcome to Truth Wanted.
Hello.
Hello. How's it going?
Hello.
Very well, very well. First, I want to say I'm French speaking, so excuse my bad English.
Great.
We're okay so far.
I have bad French, so we're even. I think.
My French is terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the thing I wrote is that the Bible is the oldest atheist book.
Yeah, I read that, and I have no idea what you mean when you say that. So I would love for you to explain that a little bit.
Do you know a man whose name André Chouraki? Maybe not because he's a French speaking person. He's a Jew who has translated the Bible and the Quran in French. And in one of his interviews, he said two interesting things. The first one, he said, "Did you know that God is an atheist?" And the other person said, "Why?" "Well, God doesn't have another God to veneer or to adore or something like that."
Yeah,
right. I like that.
I mean,
sure.
I mean, but you got to believe in yourself. You know, I mean, that's just important. Yeah. Well, unless you're Ian and the self might not exist. I don't know, or maybe it's not localized. I don't know how it works for God. But anyway, continue, Pierre.
Second thing he said is, did you know that Jews and Christians were accused of the crime of atheism by the Romans because they didn't believe in the Romans' God?
I have heard this, and I think there's historical scholarship back in this. I vaguely recall Bart Ehrman talking about this and stuff. I know it's something that comes up when talking about Christian history. But yeah, like the idea, of course, being that, you know, they didn't believe in the gods of the time or the gods that were more, you know, popular in those eras, and so they were atheists to those gods, right? Yeah. So yeah.
So getting more specific on the subject I called for is to say that life on Earth was created by extraterrestrials, and that the Bible doesn't speak of a god or gods, but it was speaking of extraterrestrials.
Okay, so those are two very different claims, and I'm wondering how you know both of those things.
Okay, so that's
yeah. Because you can pick one. You can pick one. I mean, either way, both of them are definitely not what I believe. So I'm curious as to how you could convince me that those things are true.
Well, the thing is, if you read the Bible, and when, like, if you see an angel, you think it's an extraterrestrial because today we know there are other planets and
we gotta stop right here, Pierre. If you know, I could interpret an angel in the Bible as an alien, but how does that mean that the Bible was created by aliens?
The Bible was written by humans.
Oh, the Bible was written by humans. Okay.
Yeah, but
humans were made by aliens.
Yeah, they were. When the Bible speaks of God, the first word in the Bible, Bereshit bara Elohim. Elohim has been translated by the word God, but the first thing is that it is a plural.
Yes, it is plural. And in the book of Genesis in particular, they use a plural noun for God, which is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, like if I give you some examples in Genesis 1:26, Elohim said, "Let us make man in our image, in our likeness."
And that's wonderful. That's wonderful that the Bible says that. But what does that have to do with aliens?
Well, first, it's not a monotheist God because it says, "Let us." I know Christians will say, "Oh, it's because of the Trinity."
Yeah.
God is three, so that's why Elohim is a plural.
I think if you look at the history of ancient Judaism and you look at the Semitic religions of the era, yes, they were actually polytheistic. I think scholarship holds to that point pretty well. And I think that there's evidence to support that the earliest forms of Judaism was polytheistic. I'll meet you there, Pierre. But we're talking about aliens here. How are we getting the aliens part, man? I want to know that.
Okay, so to get to the alien, there are many people who think there are aliens in the Bible, but how?
Look, but Pierre, we could talk about what's in the Bible all day. We could talk about what's in it all day, but I don't believe in the Bible's claims most of the time. Like there's a lot of demonstrable falsehoods in the Bible. It's not a reliable source of information for most of what it's writing about, or for a lot of it. It depends on the context of what we're talking about. So, are we using the Bible to demonstrate that aliens were like? Is there a way we could demonstrate that aliens created humans without using the Bible?
I have a second way, and this way is: do you trust the testimony of someone, a living person, someone who is alive as I speak to you, someone who lives in Japan, and this person in 1973, December 1973 to be exact, he saw a very bright light in the sky.
Yes.
This bright light came down. You will see, well, that's it, a bright light. We don't know what it is. But when this thing was close enough to him, he saw that it was a machine that we call UFOs.
Yeah, so I want to... I'm sorry, I want to interrupt you here because the story that you're describing, because I want to give context to my listeners, this is Raelism. You're a Raelist, correct?
Yeah, Raelian.
Raelian, yes. And so this was a religious ideology that was kind of started in the 1970s by the man you described, who had a vision and started this kind of religious movement from there. Some of its beliefs being that aliens created human beings, right?
The word vision is not correct, I think, because it was a physical encounter. But like I said, I have to rely on his testimony. Is he telling the truth or is he lying?
Well, Pierre, let me ask you this. Is human testimony the most reliable form of evidence?
Not necessarily. But
so is there better forms of evidence we could use to demonstrate his claims besides testimony?
Of course, if you bring, like they say, bring me a piece of the UFO.
Yeah, if we had a piece of the UFO, that would be good. But do we have that? Do we have anything besides testimony?
What we have, I've talked about that with Matt Dillahunty, not on the show, but by email. And he said, well, the evidence you're presenting me is not convincing.
Yes.
Evidence is what is called in ufology angel hair. Angel hair is something that people sometimes see when there is a UFO apparition. And this one happened in 1976. Yeah. There were about 50 people reunited, and two luminous objects appeared in the sky. These cottony flakes fall down, and someone has collected one of these, and I have a picture of that. So
you got a picture of a UFO piece?
Proof. It's a piece of what is called angel hair. It's something that falls down when there is a UFO apparition.
Angel
so
hair.
Nobody really knows what it is because it's difficult.
Pasta when I search angel hair. I can't. I'll have to look at that later. But I hear what you're saying, Pierre, so far. I'm sorry I keep interrupting you here, but it's just like, when I was a Christian, And I want to hear Ian's take too, because I could tell Ian wants to say something. But like when I was a Christian and I had to rely on the Bible, the Bible is at best eyewitness testimony, at best, because there's a lot of problems with how the translation of the books and stuff are created and stuff. And eyewitness testimony is some of the worst form of evidence that we could possibly have, because humans are just notoriously very bad at remembering things and just very bad at recalling information. Like we tend to have these stories that we tell ourselves that just aren't true, that we look back on, and
yeah.
There's lots of studies that show this. And so like if the best form, I don't know about these UFO pieces, but like I would not, there's thousands of UFO stories every year from people all over the world. And I don't know what would make this man's story real, or the guy that started this religion.
I'm losing you sometime.
Yeah. What makes his story better than everybody else's story? Because like lots of people have a UFO. Ian has a UFO story. He was telling me a little bit before the show. So like how could we be sure that one person's experience is more accurate than another person's?
I think that first of all, you have to know the whole story. It's not only, like you say, memory can be bad. When Rael had this experience, he already spoke about it 3 months after. A book was written, and when you read the whole book, the content of the book also has meaning for me, because the content of the book is 100% materialistic, no deities, no supernatural. That's why we call ourselves atheist religion.
Yeah.
And so at least I would say this is more humanist than the belief in a supernatural entity that is immaterial or something like that.
This would be alienist. It wouldn't even be humanist at that point, right? Or maybe sentientist. But anyway, Ian, you've been patiently waiting for a long time. I know you've got something to say. Lay it out. What you got for us?
I don't know. I don't have, I could come at this from so many different angles. I don't know what to tell you about his narrative. I mean, in terms of what I've been talking about, everyone's got their story. Everyone has their own idea of what's happened in the past, how we got here. And all I can say is that none of those stories do anything for me. They don't help me. None of it has any, whether or not I believe his story over another story, over some other story. My attitude towards just about every narrative is kind of the same. Specifically, I can say that, yes, I have seen a couple of UFOs, and I will say that in the purest sense of the phrase, that they were unidentified, they were in the sky, and they moved in ways that that seem to defy physics. And I know my Newtonian physics. I know about acceleration and mass and force, and these are things that are able to, just like you see in the videos. I've seen these on 2 occasions where they're able to move at my basic rudimentary calculations from the positions I was in. These both happen in Colorado, where I live now. They were moving at hundreds of miles an hour. They could stop on a dime and then change directions immediately, that sort of thing. They could spin, but these are always at night, and they were always lights. The first thing that I saw were 3 lights that they appeared to be connected to one thing. I never saw a structure above the lights. All I saw were lights. They were 3 rectangular lights. Nothing strange about the lights. And again, I'm the type of person who I'm just going to tell you I can tell you exactly what I saw. I'm not going to add any other narrative to that. I don't even know if those lights were all connected to anything, or what was above it, or if this thing was from another planet, or if it was from some. But I can say that I'm at a loss to describe it through any traditional means. Is all I can tell you.
Yeah,
but
and I think that's fair, right? That's what's appropriate. I think
that's how I approach everything, though. I'm not gonna, I think even these things that the Pentagon has said, you know what, we don't know what this stuff is. Even though that seems to break the laws of physics, that's how I approach my own experiences. I approach it in the way that I approach some of these UFO videos. You don't look at those UFO videos and immediately go, well, now I'm not an atheist anymore, because now that must mean that something supernatural exists. That's not how I look at that. And I go, clearly these things are using properties that we just don't quite understand yet. There's another property of physics. They found a loophole. They somehow are able to, redirect gravity in ways that we just don't understand. You know what I'm saying? That's my same attitude towards my own experiences.
That's what would be most plausible, because if you're like a medieval peasant and I showed you an iPhone, they would not have the language to describe even what exactly is going on. So
and
that intuitively makes sense to me, right? Like that, I could see that being a possibility. But I want to give some more context for the listeners real quick before we continue to this call. Well, hold on one sec, Pierre. I just want to read something here from the Wikipedia article for Raelism. Just the second paragraph here. It's quite a fascinating religious phenomenon. By the way, the symbol for, and I'm pronouncing it wrong. I know I'm saying it wrong. I don't know how to say that E in there, but the symbol for it is a Star of David with a swastika in the middle, which is interesting. But I'm just going to read the second paragraph here. It says, Raelism teaches that an extraterrestrial species known as the Elohim created humanity using their advanced technology. An atheistic religion, it believes that the Elohim have historically been mistaken for gods. It holds that throughout history, the Elohim have created 40 Elohim-human hybrids who have served as prophets, preparing humanity for news about their ultimate origins. Among those listed as prophets are the Buddha, Jesus of Nazareth, and Muhammad, with Rael himself being the 40th and final prophet. Raelists believe that since the Hiroshima bomb of 1945, humanity has entered an age of apocalypse in which it is threatening itself with nuclear annihilation. It argues that humanity must find a way of harnessing new scientific and technological development for peaceful ends, and once this has been achieved, the Elohim shall return to Earth to share their technology with humanity and usher in utopia. To this end, the Raelians have been committed to building an embassy for Elohim, incorporating a landing pad for the latter spaceship. Raelians promote a liberal ethical system with a strong emphasis on sexual experimentation, engage in daily meditation, and hope for physical immortality through human cloning. And that's another thing I heard about Raelists, is that they're pretty pro-LGBT, which is cool. There's more to this religion when we talk about the prophet guy himself, but let's get back to Pierre here for just a few more minutes, and I'll put you on mute, but I just wanted to read just a little bit of that. Was there anything there that I just read that you dispute or disagree with from that Wikipedia article, or is that accurate so far, Pierre?
Yeah, everything seems accurate.
Okay.
And, to answer Ian, Rael didn't see only a light in the sky during the night. It was at 9 o'clock in the morning, and a little beam came out of the UFO. So that's quite different.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It
sounds different.
There's a lot of religions.
See about the embassy.
Yeah. I see the parts about the embassy. I know that I'm sorry, I keep saying his name wrong, but I know that there's claims about the stuff that he took was copied from other people's works and stuff. I'm not an expert on this. I've just heard about this before, and I know some people who have covered this specific religious tradition in the past. But at the end of the day, I think Ian's right. If we're talking about weird experiences, we have to play safe rather than sorry, because I can't jump aboard the spaceship until I know that the spaceship is there. You know what I mean? I don't think if you were to convince me, Pierre, that this religion was true, I need something more than a guy's book writing about his experiences. I don't think that would be enough for me, especially in an age now in 2020 where we have cell phones and where we have recording technology and where we can just really put this one in the bag if we really wanted to for claims about aliens and extraterrestrial beings and stuff, right? I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah. Yes, but when you read the book, it's not only about our past, but it's also about how you can be more happy in your life, how you can be kind to other people. I think that's
cool.
important.
That's cool. I don't think I need to believe in aliens, though, to do that, though, do I?
No, you don't. But I want to finish, not to take too much of your time.
Okay. Fair enough.
I know Matt likes prophecy.
Yeah, and you have a prophecy. I did see this that you wanted to say. So give us your prophecy.
I can say watch the news. When you see on the news that the Raelians are building the embassy, you will know that the return of the Elohim is close. And Rael said that they will come back not later than 2035.
Not later than 2035. So mark your calendars, folks. If humanity is still there by 2035, which I am skeptical of at this point, considering the trajectory of the world, but then the spaceships are coming. So put Google Calendar, mark that, put it all your friends, add an invite, and we'll get to it then. Pierre, thanks for calling about your beliefs. Really appreciate it. Enjoyed talking to you, and you have a great rest of your night. Wow, what a first call of the night. What do you think, Ian?
I've never heard that one before. I mean, I love stories. I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
I love stories, and it's a good one. I guess all I can say is that, what I found throughout my own life is that at first, when I started getting into my own phenomena, like I said, I picked up the spiritual books. I didn't know where else to turn. I picked up the shamanism and certain religious practices. Lucid dreaming, for example, is mentioned in many old Buddhist texts and even Hindu texts and whatnot. But what I started finding is that as I started educating myself more and more on neurology and biology and physics and cosmology, I found so much more. If you want to talk about good stories, man, go read some quantum physics. If you really want a crazy story, I mean, the things that they are finding in physics now, the things that they are uncovering, I find that to be, if you're looking for a wild, insane ride, is the best way I can describe it. To me, science, I just keep turning back to science, and I find all my inspiration there. I started reading Brian Greene. I think one of the first things maybe it was the second thing I read from him was The Fabric of the Cosmos, and he's got a dissertation in there about how time works, and it's all provable. It's all, he's got the math behind it apparently and everything, and it's like a 3-page section in that book on just the flow of time and how time works. And I was in tears at the end of it. I mean, it's so beautiful. It's just, to me, that's where my inspiration is. That's where I'm going to always go back to science of what's already there. So I don't need a crazy story.
I don't need a story either. I do find inspiration in science as well. I am perfectly content with the idea that human beings were just evolved on an earth that there wasn't any intention behind that. We're just kind of there. And I'm fine with that. Some people find trouble with that. And I think if we are going to find some greater truths about the world, I don't think it's going to be from spaceships in 2035 or prophets or people who call themselves prophets, especially in the line of Jesus and the Buddha, saying that they've talked to aliens. That's a claim that we can look at with more scrutiny now more than ever. And I'm afraid when I hear about a religion like that, then that's just somebody trying to con somebody else.
What does it do for you? That's why at the end of the day, I go, what does that story do for you?
Well, to Pierre's credit, right? I mean, at the end there, he wasn't even talking about the aliens. He was like, look, you can get some ethics out of this, right?
I like that.
And that's what Christians say too. And it's like, okay, I get that, but I also don't need the religious beliefs to have those ethics, right? Unless we're talking about a God-centered ethic, then I need a God for that. But I don't think we need God for ethics necessarily either. So
my problem essentially at the core of just about every spiritual narrative, religious narrative, whatever it is, my ultimate problem is that I feel that there is what people want to do. They want to feel special.
yeah,
they want to feel special on some
100%.
level. The idea that
Yep.
all of this has happened without intent by something, the idea that, we're insignificant. I think even the flat earthers on some level, I think that somewhere that started with an understanding that how big the cosmos is, that there's just planets upon planets, stars upon stars. And it's like, but well, what are we in the middle of that? I want to feel that we're special, that we're God's special something, and that he's made this special place that's totally different from everything else. It's not like everything else. It doesn't follow the same rules. And how dare you say that we're just another planet, another life form that's on some other planet, just like anything else.
I resonate with that.
Out of people. I think it scares the crap out of people. And that's why I totally appreciate when people say, well, isn't that kind of what you're saying, that you're just, maybe you're making this stuff up about astral projection because you're afraid of death, and that, and I get it. I totally appreciate that. Absolutely. I think that so many people would love to have a narrative that, and again, it comes back to, are you attached to these stories? Like, if I just believe hard enough that I agree. I don't want people to listen to what I'm telling you about astral projection and just be appeased by it. I don't want you to be comforted by it. Although I've had people say that, it's a comforting idea, that this idea that, somehow there's something about me that has nothing really to do with this body that I know is going to die. And it's a response to an existential threat. I totally think that's what it is. Yeah. Absolutely.
But we have like some more callers here, some who want to ask you some stuff.
Yeah,
so a little more relevant to you being on. But how could I not take a call like that, Ian? How could I not take a call from a real Raelian? A real Raelian.